I have a bunch of old tape measures lying around, and I decided it was a good time to do a refresh and see which ones are still accurate. I just bought this one, and I have two that are, no, these two, three I guess, are all pretty old. Tape measures aren't always right, so if you haven't checked yours for a while, it's a good idea to do so, especially if you use them for woodworking. And the way that I'm going to do this is I first took some calipers and I used that to make a 5-inch mark on this piece of wood. So that line right there, if you can see it, is exactly 5 inches. And then I verified that using a separate set of calipers. We're right on 5 inches exactly. And then just for kicks, I put my square on there and I checked it with the square and saw that already my square is no good for measurement. So I'm probably going to, you can see that's off by just a little bit, maybe a 64th. I'm not going to use this square for measuring. I'll probably write something on there so I know not to use that scale. And now I have 4 tape measures and I want to see if these are any good. I got an old Stanley first, and that falls right on 5 inches with no trouble lining it up. I'm not getting any extra movement. And now this is checking if you're measuring from the outside of a piece. I also super glued a little piece of wood on the side here. That's just a piece of a popsicle stick, and that lets me check the inside as well. And the reason you check inside and outside is that tape measures have these 2 rivets on the bottom, and that's designed to allow this the end piece to move by the thickness of the end piece. So if this is a 1/16 of an inch, there should be a 1/16 of an inch of movement. And if that's off and you try to measure something inside, you won't get an accurate measurement. So in this case, the Stanley is still dead on. That's great, so consider that one good. Next on to the Craftsman. This is a pretty old one as well, and you can already see that that's a little bit off. So again, probably just about a 64th, but if you're doing some precise work, that's going to throw you off by a 64th, and if your marking isn't exactly right, that's just going to compound the error. So I see that I'm off there by just enough. If I were to mark something 5 inches with this, it would actually be a little bit longer than 5 inches. Now let's check the inside measurement, and that's off by about a 32nd there. So that means that this might have been dropped at some point, and maybe that the slot got elongated, or it was just never right in the first place. But either way, I don't trust this tape measure. These things run about $5 each for a new 12-foot tape measure. So rather than risk ruining an expensive piece of furniture, or just an important piece of furniture, woodwork, something that I'm making, I'm going to throw this out. I'm not even going to try to fix it. Next I have my new Craftsman that I just picked up, and 5 inches exactly. That's nice, and it lines up real easily. And now for the inside measurement, right on 5 inches. That's great. So this one's good. And lastly, I have an old Husky tape measure. I'm not expecting much out of this. You can see this thing has probably been dropped a few times and beat up and used for some inside measurements, and that'll throw this off a little bit. So let's see what we got here. Alright, we're looking at, it's not too far off, but see, I got to play around with it a little bit to get it. Just by touching the end here, I'm changing the measurement. So this has got a little bit too much play in it. And now if I measure on the inside, I guess it really depends on where I put this. Yeah, see, this is just too twisted there. This is not any good for woodwork. I'm gonna take this into the office for some rough measurements, or just throw it in the trash. I think is probably a better idea. So now I know that I have 2 good tape measures, 2 bad tape measures. It's possible to fix these. Sometimes you can put them on the edge of a vise or something and just give it a little tap with a hammer and get that piece straightened out. But again, if the amount of play in the end is more than the thickness of this piece, it's never going to be accurate no matter what you do. It's just really not worth it. So don't ruin your expensive or don't ruin any of the work that you do by taking bad measurements. Check your tape measures and make sure they're good, and throw out the ones that you're not going to use.